Hey there. I am back with another long form video. Long because it's a topic I feel passionately about and also because I've been making notes for months. So for this video I've referred to my old journals, notes, annotations, my favorite quotes, etc. And yes, I am excited to finally put this video out where we talk about what it means to say I don't know in a world of AI slop and what makes a person smart. So, if you're walking or driving around the kitchen, join in. If not, maybe grab a cup of coffee or tea. Let's make this a good long conversation. So, yes, at some point in our lives, we've all been told, "Oh, you didn't know that. How can you not know that? I thought you were smart," with utmost contempt or condescension. And I'm sure comments like these are super discouraging and insensitive. All of us live in this era of AI boom, endless information flow, and the resultant widespread misinformation, thanks to the marriage of social media and oligarchy. Every second, we are bombarded with information, most of which we do not even need and would never even look up if it came in a newspaper. And this includes the gajillion ads. But the brevity of information lifespan and our capitalistic world's obsession with all things new plays an unseen yet palpable pressure to always be this person who knows everything about everything, almost like a walking database. But do we realize that our brains are not wired to absorb anything in such large doses and at such a speed? Remember the times we sat in classrooms and took a week or more to learn a chapter or a concept? It took us time to absorb and retain information. But now it has become shameful and even scandalous to say, "Oh, I don't know much about it," or "I don't fully understand what you said. Could you repeat?" Which is why many of us, including me, confidently give the wrong answer. In her book, The Year of Magical Thinking, John Didion says, "Read, learn, work it up, go to the literature. Information is control." Now, when she said information is control, she meant control over one's own life and emotions and not over someone else. For her, literature was where she took refuge anytime life seemed too much. It was what she turned to as she was grieving the passing of her husband, John Dart. It was what she turned to when her daughter, Quintana, was falling sick. But coming back to our information slash content obsessed world, we can clearly see how what once served as a tool for self reflection, comfort, and growth is now wielded as a weapon to police the person who isn't in the know about something. Everyone is expected to have instant takes on everything, and this makes us feel like we're always behind. This then leads to us faking certainty to avoid feeling like we're the slowest in this invisible race to feel superior. Walt Whitman's poem, When I Heard the Learned Astronomer, is something that I go back to every time I feel this shame or this burden of not knowing something. It goes like this: When I heard the learned astronomer, when the proofs, the figures were ranged in columns before me, when I was shown the charts and diagrams to add, divide, and measure them, when I, sitting, heard the astronomer where he lectured with much applause in the lecture room, how soon unaccountable I became tired and sick. Till rising and gliding out, I wandered off by myself in the mystical moist night air, and from time to time looked up in perfect silence at the stars. Through this poem, Whitman challenges the inherent arrogance and certitude in knowledge and what science doesn't yet know or may never even know. Decades later, renowned scientist and astronomer Carl Sagan, the guy who I grew fond of because of his explanation of the universe and the pale blue dot, echoed the same sentiment in a conversation with Jonathan Cott. In the interview, he says, "It's a critical moment in the history of the world. We are the representatives of the cosmos. We are an example of what hydrogen atoms can do, given 15 billion years of cosmic evolution. And we resonate to these questions. We start with the origin of every human being, and then the origin of a community, a nation, the human species, who our ancestors were, and then the riddle of the origin of life. And the questions: where did the Earth and solar system come from? Where did the galaxies come from? Every one of those questions is deep and significant. They are the subject of folklore, myth, superstition, and religion in every human culture. But for the first time, we are on the verge of answering many of them. I don't mean to suggest that we have the final answers. We are bathing in mystery and confusion on many subjects, and I think that will always be our destiny. The universe will always be much richer than our ability to understand it. So, yes, we are bathing in mystery, people. Now that we know from the wise and well lived that we can't really be certain or definite about anything, let's look at the cultural mechanics of why it feels dangerous to say, "I don't know." The first thing we need to admit is that there exist layers of shame around ignorance. Instead of explaining a concept with patience and empathy, people consider themselves morally, intellectually superior and authorized to judge the person who admits to the lack of knowledge or information. Imagine you sitting in a classroom or with a bunch of people who are known for their smug approach and they start talking about something you have absolutely no clue about. Slowly you feel left out. So you pull out your phone, search for the topic, and skim read it, and most likely might still not understand it at all. I've observed in social circles, political, religious, or any extremist circles, how the norm is snap judgment over exploration. This judgment, in fact, discourages people from learning something new because then, to the ones who go on purity spirals, it means the others do not know anything or do not hold an opinion that's often similar to theirs and must hence be condemned. Now, if you're wondering what purity spiral is, in a nutshell, it refers to the practice where people have this uncontrollable urge to be, ideologically right or pure. Anything different isn't tolerated. They set this invisible standard for acceptable knowledge and punish anyone who slips. Purity spirals do not make space for the curious minds because nuances or moderate opinions are never accepted or they are frowned upon. Recently, I stumbled upon a quote by writer Kashing Thom from her book I Hope We Choose Love, which perfectly captures this feeling. She says, "We have all seen the dogpile of social media, seen people verbally relentlessly attack for making problematic statements despite good intentions or even for expressing legitimate differences of opinion. The movement seeks uniformity because uniformity and purity feel safe. This too is the language of trauma." So now we understand how, unless we hold an extreme, absolute view, we are either called stupid or unopinionated. This then brings me to my next subtopic, which is binary thinking. Binary thinking pressurizes people to take a side. It's all black or white, right or wrong. There is no space for mystery, slowness, or uncertainties. This is especially true on social media, where we see people getting cancelled over speaking and sometimes not speaking during times of crisis like wars or political uncertainties. They scream at you and say, if you're silent, it means you're complicit, or speak up right now. This push and pressure then obviously leads to people resorting to making statements that they might not necessarily mean so they can appease the angry masses. Binary thinking is a convenient practice that lets people make sense of life and compartmentalize things. It's almost like, oh, that sounds stupid, I don't want to be part of it, or oh, this sounds cool, I think I want to be part of this movement. This dependence on convenience then allows no space for opposing thoughts or thoughts that differ from the masses. Through binary thinking, we have unfortunately built a culture where uncertainty is treated like moral failure. In tangent to this thought, I'd like to quote French American writer Anais Nin, who, in a diary entry from the Diary of Anais Nin, exhorts us to embrace the unfamiliar. She says, "Educators do all in their power to prepare you to enjoy reading after college. It is right that you should read according to your temperament, occupations, hobbies, and vocations. But it is a sign of great inner insecurity to be hostile to the unfamiliar, unwilling to explore the unfamiliar. In science, we respect the research worker. In literature, we should not always read the books blessed by the majority. This trend is reflected in such absurd announcements as the death of the novel, the last of the romantics, the last of the bohemians, when we know that these are continuous trends which evolve and merely change form. The suppression of inner patterns in favor of patterns created by society is dangerous to us. Artistic revolt, innovation, experiment should not be met with hostility. They may disturb an established order or an artificial conventionality, but they may rescue us from death in life, from robot life, from boredom, from loss of the self, from enslavement. When we totally accept a pattern not made by us, not truly our own, we wither and die. In a fast and loud world, it actually takes courage to admit our ignorance, but it takes even more courage to learn and sometimes choose not to learn about something. At the start of the video, I'd mentioned how our capitalistic world is obsessed with, new things, but it is also obsessed with speed, and it rewards what's fast. There is no place or reward for those who take their own sweet time to create or just live. Algorithms keep pushing creators to keep putting out content against the threat of not being visible. Our cars and washing machines and printers and laptops and phones and delivery services are all fast so we can buy back a few minutes of time. News channels show journalists turn gossip mongers, yell and throw hot news and unchecked facts at each other with utmost confidence. But here's where the issue is, it is not in the fast pacedness of things. It's in slow learners becoming invisible or reduced to the title dumb. People who process information more slowly often get steamrolled. Note that they are not confused or uninterested. People with special needs or cognitive disorders absorb and retain information differently. They might often need extra explanation to understand, reflect, and respond. Sometimes they need visual explanations. But the conversational treadmill never slows down for them. Often, what happens is that they get talked over, skipped, ignored, or called dumb because they don't spit out the takes in a blink. This then leaves them feeling unseen and unheard, and such people end up silencing themselves because it's easier and safer. But please know that this isn't a flaw in them, it's a flaw in a culture that acts like quickness equals intelligence. The fear of saying, I don't know, hits them even harder because the world already treats them as behind. I personally believe conversations would be much richer if we just allowed pauses, clarifications, and slower thinking without treating it like a crime against intellect. Now, let's look at what makes a person smart or an intellect. Is it someone who knows all the names and isms in the latest news? Is it someone who can formulate arguments in a snap? Is it someone who can eloquently defend their takes and stay rooted to it even when the reality is otherwise? David McCraney, in his book, You're Not So Smart, topples our idea of intelligence. We think we are logical or rational people who hold our own unique, unbiased views, but then he goes ahead and breaks it into a million shards to say. From the greatest scientist to the most humble artisan, every brain within every body is infested with preconceived notions and patterns of thought that lead it astray without the brain knowing it. So, you are in good company. No matter who your idols and mentors are, they too are prone to spurious speculation. Through the years, the smartest people I've come across are the ones who are themselves and do not blindly follow gurus or the most popular movement. They are the ones who have admitted that they do not know everything. They recognize gaps. They ask questions and update their beliefs. They have this thirst for knowledge and are always curious. They are kind and sensitive to the world and the people around them. They are slow, deliberate thinkers who often have insights that AI could never hold. The smart people in my life have taught me that intelligence isn't a race, it's a lifelong process. So yes, I think I'm almost at the end of my rant. It took me a few weeks to prepare for this video, mostly because I had to bring in a lot of articles and quotes I had bookmarked over the years. One of the main reasons behind me wanting to make a video like this is a news article I read in the Malayalam Manorama paper back in August. The article said how Kerala University was under fire for teaching their students a poem created by AI but wrongly credited to Pablo Neruda. Just imagine. The poem was taught and students even took an exam on it. Anyway, it made me realize how even educational institutions aren't immune to AI slop. Imagine lecturers being forced to come up with a syllabus in a few days' time and turning to AI to do it for them. Anyway, the research for this video introduced me to some great people and thoughts. It revealed my own biases and black and white thinking and reminded me that I need more of these, I don't know moments in my life. That empathy is a great tool and an important one in learning and retaining information. That I shouldn't feel shame in asking questions or clarifying things. That I have the power to choose what's worth learning and that I do not need to have a take on everything. In fact, I don't want to be omniscient or like a scary biblical god. I want to be selective and curious. I want to evolve till I die. In an era where AI can produce and tamper with information with impressive confidence, we don't win by acting like know-it-alls. That's what they want us to be, though. We win by thinking, questioning, noticing nuances, and being honest about what we don't know. And let's remind ourselves every day that uncertainty isn't a weakness, it's a starting point of actual intelligence. Alright, thank you so much for watching and sticking around till the end. I've put all reading material in the description below, and yes, please do share your thoughts so we can learn from each other. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.